Hi everyone, and welcome to the weekend. More questions from commentator Josh Barrett for today. So to open, your thoughts on one-make racing versus multi-marque versus multi-class racing. Interesting one this. I think there's a place for all of it. A one-make series has a lot of strength in that you end up with quite a strong community of people who are all running similar cars, all undergoing similar trials and tribulations as they go through the prep and racing. And you get a strong value for the cars as well, because so long as the series survives, there's a known place for them to race. I think it also helps with camaraderie and with people behaving themselves a little bit, in that the reputation of the series, the specific series that they've built their car for, does for a large part determine the value of their car, so that's helpful. And something else is useful is if you have a paddock full of like cars, if something breaks, the odds of you being able to find a spare on the day by begging, borrowing from competitors is much higher. That helps as well. It does curb imagination though, and often the regulations are quite prescriptive, so you end up with cars which are almost done in a kit form, where everything's built to the same spec, so you don't get so much ingenuity, you don't get so much variety out there either. So multi-marque, where you have cars which are all running to the same approximate performance level, but different manufacturers, different types of car are eligible, can be quite exciting because you can find it varying by circuit. Within the Class I racing, one of my key competitors in 2017-18 was Dan Rogers in a Mazda MX-5, and his lightweight nimble car versus my heavy powerful one really told by different circuits. If we go to a fast circuit, I have a significant strength down the straights, but if we're somewhere tight and twisty like Cadwell, I really struggle to hang on the back of him. And that variety, and it changes again in the wet as well, that variety can add a lot of excitement to racing and can make it a different experience at each circuit, which I really enjoy. Multi-class is where I normally race and where my heart's at really, because I'm all about endurance racing, Le Mans 24-hour World Endurance Championship, GT racing, that kind of thing. Strength of multi-class is that it allows you to run a lot of different cars on a grid. You can form a very large grid with a wide variety of performance and budget. It means people can access a class of race that they may not otherwise be able to do. I'm entering 2-hour races on a budget that would normally be nowhere near sufficient to do that, because there's a large grid of all these different performance cars. And it is quite exciting when you get, so I run in the third of the classes in Club Enduro. There's a lot of faster cars out there, and halfway through the race they're mixing with us, and it's part of the strategy to understand how you manage traffic, how you deal with the faster cars around you. I find that really exciting and a really good tactical element, and there is a lot of satisfaction in overtaking cars from the class above as well, of course. It is more difficult to follow for spectators though. Even when cars in class are labelled, after a few laps, when the field spreads out and then starts mixing together again as faster cars are lapping slower ones, it is less intelligible to spectators, so it sometimes takes a little bit more explanation or simply isn't watched as much, so that there's that to watch out for. Place for all of them, I think, and so it seems in club racing at the moment. There seems to be a fairly even split of those different types. Your coolest club racing category, past or present? I really like F1000, the Formula Jedi that's recently been renamed. These are tiny lightweight cars powered by motorbike engines. They look like a very heavily miniaturised single-seater Formula 1 type car, compressed down to something that only weighs around 340 kilos. They hold outright lap records at some of the circuits we go to, and the performance of these things is just phenomenal, and they're a real spectacle. I think they're seriously cool, but not as cool as the sports racing and Bernie's V8 championship that's run by 750 Motors Club. This is actually, in the regs it says just big old school muscle racing cars. There are classes. The top one is above 400 horsepower per ton. Really the only rules are that it has to be naturally aspirated, it has to be in fitting with the type of cars out there, and it must run treaded tyres, no ABS, no traction control, no nothing, and it's just wonderful. There's nowhere else that you can see a Ford GT40 battling with a NASCAR refugee, battling with a 60s TVR, battling with a C1 Corvette. There's Cobras out there, all sorts. It's just brilliant, and the noise off the things, even warming up in the paddock, is a delight. Seriously cool championship, love it. What race series would you like to see that's not currently on the market? Sticking to the attainable, something that I if I willed it into being, I could actually enter. Years ago, a few friends of mine, we were thinking about getting the British touring cars of the 90s. You know, get a 2 litre Mondeo, an A4, a Vectra, a Laguna, all of these, just the standard Repmobile things, and maybe put a bit of livery on them, and then just do track days, because it'd be good fun. The cars don't need to be that fast, but the image you're portraying, for me, that's what I grew up with in motorsport, watching British touring cars, and I know a lot of people of my generation did. Recreating that would be really cool. The actual cars still exist, of course. The Super Touring era cars are out there and are raced, but you're in the six-figure budget for that. What I'd like is if you had a slow-mo kind of touring car championship where you had nice tightly controlled regulations. You had to use saloon cars of that period with the particular engine that they had, a 2 litre 4-cylinder or something like that. Put a controlled tyre on them. Limit performance in some way, maybe by power to weight, or maybe simply just say no engine modifications allowed from factory, and run those. And I think it'd be fantastic. I think a lot of people would quite like it as the reliving what they watched as children. The only thing we'd need is we'd have to try and get Murray Walker to commentate on it. That's the other deal. Happy to hear your thoughts on that though. Any other suggestions?